What happens when fire, unstoppable and merciless, forces the wealthy and the famous to flee their carefully built sanctuaries? Imagine the stillness of a California night shattered by sirens, skies glowing an ominous red, and flames moving closer with each gust of wind. That was the reality when Kourtney Kardashian, faced with a wildfire's wrath, was left with no choice but to evacuate. In the chaos of smoke and ash, she turned not to a luxury hotel or hidden estate, but to family, moving into Kendall Jenner's house. What unfolded next revealed both vulnerability and resilience, in a moment where celebrity glamour collided with the raw force of nature. The story of Kourtney Kardashian moving into Kendall's house after a wildfire evacuation is not just about two sisters under the same roof. It is about the fragility of safety, the unpredictability of life in California, and the hidden dynamics within one of the world's most famous families. Wildfires do not discriminate. They scorch land worth millions and humble those who believe their walls can keep danger away. On that night, the Kardashian, Jenner empire felt the tremor of fear, just like thousands of ordinary families who packed bags, held onto children and fled into uncertainty. The evacuation was swift. Kourtney, with her children by her side, grabbed only what she could. The manicured lawns of her home, the carefully curated interiors, the sense of stability, all of it suddenly seemed insignificant in the face of advancing flames. Neighbors fled too, their cars packed with photographs, pets, and fragments of their lives. The air outside was heavy with smoke, and the hills glowed in fiery orange. In that chaos, Kourtney Kardashian knew there was only one place she could go where familiarity and comfort could ease the shock: Kendall Jenner's house. Kendall's residence, high on the hills, had so far been untouched by the wildfire's rage. The home, modern and serene, suddenly became a refuge not only for Kourtney but for her children, her fears, and the weight of an unfolding disaster. As cameras later documented, the image of Kourtney Kardashian moving into Kendall's house told a story that millions could relate to. The sudden collapse of routine, the forced intimacy of sharing space, and the strength, or tension, that emerges when family bonds are tested under pressure. Kourtney arrived tired, shaken, yet protective. Her children looked around Kendall's minimalist, quiet home with both curiosity and unease. This was not a planned visit or a family gathering. It was an emergency relocation. Kendall, known for her more private and less chaotic lifestyle, opened her doors without hesitation. But with the closeness came challenges. Two sisters with different rhythms, personalities, and expectations were suddenly living under the same roof. The days that followed painted a picture of contrast. Kourtney, a mother of three, carried routines, noise, and the energy of children into Kendall's house. Mornings were filled with the sounds of breakfast chatter, toys, and the bustle of family life. For Kendall, whose life was structured around calm, quiet, and control, it was a new environment, one that tested her patience and her ability to adapt. Yet beneath the tension, there was also love, protection, and the shared relief of knowing they were safe together. Outside, the wildfires raged on. California's hillsides burned, firefighters battled tirelessly, and news reports showed endless images of destruction. Thousands were displaced, homes were lost, and families clung to shelters and temporary accommodations. The Kardashian name may have made headlines, but in truth, Kourtney's evacuation mirrored the lives of countless others. The reality was stark. Nature does not pause for fame. For Kourtney Kardashian, moving into Kendall's house was not a privilege but a necessity, one that stripped away the comfort of choice. Inside Kendall's walls, the documentary lens captured quiet moments. Kourtney standing by the window at night, watching the smoke still rising in the distance. Kendall walking through her living room, her phone constantly buzzing with updates. the sisters sitting together, sometimes silent, sometimes arguing over space, but ultimately bound by circumstance. What might have seemed like a simple story, Kourtney Kardashian moving into Kendall's house after a wildfire evacuation, was in fact layered with emotional truths about family, survival, and the unpredictability of life. Kourtney's children slowly adapted, making corners of Kendall's house their own. Schoolwork spread across the dining table, laughter filled the halls, and toys found their way onto pristine shelves. Kendall, though occasionally overwhelmed, found herself bonding with her niece and nephews in unexpected ways. Bedtime stories, shared meals, and even late-night conversations with Kourtney became moments of connection that may never have happened otherwise. The wildfire had taken stability away, but it had given them closeness, raw, unpolished, but real. And yet it was not without strain. Cameras caught moments of frustration, Kourtney feeling like an imposition, Kendall yearning for her solitude, the children growing restless in a house that wasn't theirs. These conflicts, small but meaningful, painted the human side of an extraordinary family. For every hug there was a sigh. For every shared laugh, a glance that spoke of fatigue. Still, the underlying bond of sisterhood held firm. Days stretched into weeks. Updates on the wildfire brought both hope and despair. Sometimes the flames seemed contained, only for winds to drive them forward again. Each night the family checked reports, called neighbors, and wondered if Kourtney's home would survive. The uncertainty gnawed at them. Would they return to a standing house, or to ashes? That question haunted not only Kourtney but also the thousands displaced alongside her. The narrative of Kourtney Kardashian moving into Kendall's house after wildfire evacuation became symbolic. It represented how disaster equalizes, how even those with fame and fortune are forced into the same state of vulnerability as everyone else. It showed how family becomes the first line of refuge when everything else collapses. And it reminded the world that California's wildfires are not abstract news. They are lived realities that destroy homes, uproot lives, and demand resilience from all. Eventually, as firefighters gained control and evacuation orders lifted, the day came when Kourtney could return. The drive back was tense, every turn on the road carrying suspense. The cameras lingered on her face as she approached her neighborhood. Relief washed over her as her house still stood, scarred by smoke but intact. The danger had passed, but the experience had left a mark. Moving into Kendall's house had been more than just a temporary refuge. It was a chapter that revealed both the strength of family and the fragility of normal life. In reflection, Kourtney spoke of gratitude for safety, for her children's resilience, and for Kendall's generosity. Kendall admitted the experience was challenging, but also meaningful, bringing them closer in ways she hadn't expected. For both, it was a reminder that behind the headlines, behind the glamour, they were just sisters facing fire, fear, and uncertainty together. As the documentary closes, the lens pulls back. The California hills slowly recover, scarred but alive. Families rebuild, communities heal, and life resumes. Yet the memory remains. The night fire forced Kourtney Kardashian to move into Kendall's house after a wildfire evacuation. A night when the familiar world turned fragile, and survival meant finding safety in each other. And while the flames eventually died, the story continues to burn as a reminder of resilience, vulnerability, and the unbreakable bond of family.